Alrighty, well, it is just a really lovely weekend here. Although it is nice and warm. Tomorrow not so much. Tomorrow's supposed to be like mid-50s, I think. But today's like, I think it's almost 70 right now. So it's nice out. It's just raining, but it's a nice, slow, steady rain, which is exactly what we needed because we were getting kind of dry. So it's one of them rains that's actually doing good instead of just dumping a bunch of water and then getting hot. So I'll take it. But because it's a shitty weekend, we really ain't got a whole lot going on, and I didn't really know what to video, so I figured I'd finally do one that I've been getting bugged about for years. Like a long time. And that is about these guys. Hold on, I'm gonna push it out in the light real quick. So this is one of our 1971 Sears SS14s, which the SS stands for Super Suburban. They had the Suburbans, which they never made a Suburban 14, they made a Suburban 12. And then they had the Super Suburbans, which was the SS12, the SS14, and the SS15. Which was the SS15 replaced the SS14, and the SS12 was obviously the 12 horse version. The SS14 was a 14 horse, and the SS15 was a 15 horse. But this one is the one that I'm starting with because this one is probably the most special of all of them. Not because there's anything special about it in particular, but because this is the one that Granddad bought brand new in 1971. And there's a story as to how we ended up with this one. So I can't remember if I'm pretty sure it was in 1970 because they built the Super Suburbans in 70, 71, and 72 if I remember right. And in 70, Granddad bought a SS12. And the SS12s had 12 horse Tecumsehs in them. And Tecumseh is the worst small engine manufacturer ever to walk the earth. They are junk. They've been junk. They were junk in the past. They're still junk now. I've never seen a Tecumseh that's worth a damn. I've got a Generac generator that came with my house. It's got a, I think that one's a 12 horse Tecumseh. Hardest starting son of, you got to, once it's warm it'll start, but you got to ether the son of a bitch to get it to start cold. Hate Tecumsehs. But anyway, back to the story at hand. So Granddad bought in 1970 a SS12. If I remember right, it was the first or the second time he was out mowing the yard with it. Brand new tractor. It threw a rod. So Sears came out, back when Sears was actually a good store. Sears came out, put a new engine with it, or put a new engine in it. I think he mowed 3 or 4 more times through a rod. After that, Sears gave him a different tractor, another SS12. That one finished out mowing the rest of that summer. They blew, if I remember right, they blew snow with it. And if I remember right, I can't remember if they were blowing snow with it or if they got through winter and he was mowing like the first or second, like, I think it happened when he was blowing snow. Either way, the second tractor threw a rod. So that time he didn't even go talk to Sears about it. He threw they pushed the tractor up in the bed of his pickup. He drove to Sears, went in and said, "You're gonna give me another fucking tractor that doesn't have that fucking Tecumseh in it, or you're just taking this one back." So they gave him this SS14. The SS14s have a big block 14 cast iron big block 14 horse Briggs and Stratton in them. And that's how we ended up with this one, and this one's been around ever since. So Granddad had it. He mowed with it and blowed snow with it for years, and I think Granddad's yard is shit. And that was back when they were living in the back house. I bet he was mowing 4 or 5 acres of grass with it every year. And he mowed with it until he bought his Ford LGTD 14, which is a 14 horse Ford diesel. That's when this thing got retired from Granddad. And then when Mom and Dad got married and bought a house, Dad got it. At that point, the engine was getting tired, and back at that time, it was actually cheaper to buy a long block than it was to rebuild the original engine. So it's actually got a 15 horse Briggs in it now, which it looks exactly like the original 14 horse, but so it's on its second engine. Dad mowed with it all them years, and then I bought this place and it came over here to live, and I've been mowing with it. So not only am I the third generation to be driving it, I am the third generation to buy a house and have it moved to the new house with me. Because Granddad bought it, and then Dad bought his house and moved, and it went to Dad's house, and then I bought my house and moved, and then it came to my house. So it's on its second engine, and I think it's on its fourth more. I think it's wore out four more decks, if I remember right. I think it's on its fourth more deck. Which actually, this third one doesn't really count because it didn't wear it out. It had a 48 inch on it, but we only have one 48 inch deck, and Dad wanted to keep that for the other Sears that he was mowing with at the time. So I got a 42 inch deck with it. So technically it's wore out 2 more decks, and it's on its third, if you want to get technical. But it's had 4 different more decks under it. And it still starts and runs to this day. And I think I got an acre and a half of yard here. I mow at least once a week with it, sometimes twice, because of the back of my backyard back there grows like out of style. I actually just used it Monday. I thatched the yard with it. It still runs. Should start. I was actually impressed because it's got a 2-year-old battery in it, and lawnmower batteries are kind of garbage. Oop. Just like that. She's a good old girl. I need to change the oil in it, but I wanted to run it once first this spring, so I got everything washed down out of the motor, and I need to replace the traction belt on it too, because it kept rolling on me. So, and it's got some cracks in it. So that's part of the spring tune-up, is I got to change the oil and change that belt. But this is not the original color, and we have one over at Mom and Dad's that I'll show you that you'll see the original color. The white's wrong, although the white's close, and the blue is not even close. But the reason it's painted this color blue is back in the 70s and 80s, tractor pulling was huge in the Midwest, like huge. Every small town had a pulling track, and there's a bunch of guys here in town that had a pulling team, and that was their color. There was this Sears. There's a guy north of town had an SS12, which was one of the few to survive. It's actually still there. He doesn't mow his yard with it anymore, but he has a trailer. I see it out every once in a while. It's still around. There was that there. So there was that SS12. One of our neighbors had a 112 Deer, I think, that was painted this color. The other neighbor had a Copar. Pretty sure it was new enough. It was a Copar Panzer, or it was Copar second or first in Pennsylvania Panzer. Was either way, it was a Panzer, one of the wide front ones. He had a Panzer. They painted this color. Granddad had a mini rod with a V6 Buick in it that was painted this color. And there were several other tractors in town because everybody, they had their pulling team, and this was their pulling team color, which is why it got painted this color and it just never got painted back. And this thing used to have, somewhere Grandma and Grandpa got a picture of it. This thing had stacks of trophies. There was something about the way that, because these were built by Roper for Sears. And you could buy the same tractor in a Roper. The only thing was the hood and the grill were different. But something about the way Roper built these transmissions, and then these Sears turf tires are just the bitingest sons of bitches you ever seen in your life. But this thing was damn near impossible to beat in the garden tractor class. And they had gobs and gobs of trophies with it, and they all got thrown away, unfortunately. But there's a picture of it somewhere sitting in the yard with all the trophies in front of it. I should find it. That'd be neat. I saw it one time, but Grandma and Grandpa got like a great big huge box of pictures, and it's buried back in there. She were going through them one day at I think a family reunion or something. But it was a real winner on a pulling track. There was one time, because this was what Dad pulled, and then Granddad had that mini rod. As a matter of fact, somewhere, where's it at? Somewhere there's a second hole drilled. I think it was right here. Or no, where was it? Somewhere there was a second hole drilled in the floor pan, because Granddad actually built a second clutch for it. It was right here. I'm pretty sure. Granddad built a second clutch for it so that Dad could reach the clutch pedal, because he was so young he couldn't reach this one. And then when I started driving it, Dad actually built another second clutch pedal, which is still around somewhere, but we didn't need the hole because he bent it where it would come down and around so that I could drive it, and the second clutch pedal was back here. And that's what I started, that's how I was able to start mowing with it, was I had that shorter clutch on it. But anyway, there was one pull they were at. It was a stone boat pull, and it was the first percentage pull that they'd ever been to, and they didn't really understand how it worked. And there was no weight classes, because at a percentage pull, it's how much, or the greatest percentage of the weight of the tractor. So you actually want the lightest tractor you can get and try to pull the most weight with it, and that's how you win. Well, since there was no weight class, they just weighted the thing up. They threw every hunk of iron they had on it. And if I remember right, with Dad on the tractor with all the weights on it, that tractor scaled at 1,200 pounds. And they couldn't hang enough weight on the stone boat to stop it, but they still lost the pull because the tractor was so damn heavy. So, but they had wheel weights out. They would come out to like clear out here. They had a weight bracket made for the front of it. They had weights out the yin-yang for this thing. But it's got the 3-point on it, which this was a manual one. They had the option for an electric one. That's the mower deck I'm currently using. That's just a regular old Thatcher, like a modern one, but Dad built it to go on the 3-point rather than pull type. That's one of the drags we got. There's a disc for it right there. And there's a snow blade, because this was what I originally plowed my driveway with when I moved over here the first year, before I realized, hey, I have a perfectly good farmall Cub sitting over at Mom and Dad's doing nothing, and plowing snow with a garden tractor sucks. Oh, if I remember right, it also wore out 2 different snow blowers too. I think it's worn out 2 snow blowers. So this, like I say, this is the original one that Granddad bought brand new, and it's definitely not going anywhere. It's on its, the front tires are original. I think that's the second set of back tires. I think those are the original rear tires, because I think they used these for dirt pulling, and they had another set that they used for pulling on concrete because they tore them up. So those might still be the original drives. I can't remember. But anyway, I guess that's all I can say about this one, really. One of these days it should get restored, but I don't know if we should paint it back the right colors or paint it back this blue, just because this is the way I always remember it. And we got one, well, we got 2 of them we could put back to all original, so I guess we can go look at those now. Okay, back over at the other barn, we got the other 2 that are kind of buried, so I apologize. But this one is the all original one, 100%. If I can maybe get a better angle from over here, maybe. So much shit. The fuck was that? Oh. So this one is all original. Right down to the hubcaps, and it had a full set of hubcaps, but after we got it, Dad wanted that rear set of weights on there, so the rear hubcaps are up in the garage on the shelf where they're safe. This one still got the original 14 horse Briggs in it. This one actually Dad found on eBay, was down by Bristol Motor Speedway in Tennessee. Just so happened he was going, I think he was going down to North or South Carolina, I think, for a job. And he drug the trailer down with him and picked this up all in one shot. So this one's got a pretty short story, but that's what makes this one kind of special, is the fact that it is 100%. This is the right color. This is, Sears called that Jade Mist. It's actually kind of dusty. It needs a bath. It's been sitting all winter, but that's the color it's supposed to be. And then the hood is, I think they called that pearl white. But it's a real pretty color. And this one's a runner too, although I think the battery's dead. It had the original, this one even had the original, they call them a shusher muffler. But originally, if I can get this hood open, the muffler sat right here, and they are really hard to find, and Dad didn't want it burning out, so we took it off to save it. And B, they were known for burning the side tin because they blew right on it, kind of. So that's why the muffler's off. But the battery's probably dead in this one. Lawn and garden batteries just suck. If you get more than a year out of them, you're doing good. Oh yeah, dead as a doornail. But this one will run. This is actually what Dad, he rolls the yard and does all that odd job stuff with it. And this was the one he was mowing with until it got replaced with that last year. And then we got this guy. This one was a freebie. My uncle is a teacher for a big school district just south of here. And I guess an old timer passed away, and he had a bunch of garden tractors and small engines, just a horde of basically all junk. And this was among all the stuff, and they donated it to the school. And basically all they were going to do was he was going to take the engines out of them and scrap the rest so that he had small engines to teach the kids on. And he knew that we had, at that point we had this one and the original one. He knew we had them, so he asked if we wanted it, and it's like, hell yeah. And when we got it, it was a rag. Both front tires were flat. It had, the rear tires were not the same size, and they were mismatched. They had I don't think it had that seat on it. I think we put that one on. I think it had a raggy high back seat with no cushion or anything left on it. And it didn't run. It had been sitting outside. This is the cover for, there's a part that goes in here they call the mule drive, and that drives all your belly mount stuff. It's the belts come back under here and go back up to the pulley. Well, this little piece of tin here, they'd put a hole in it, and they had a 2-inch ball in here. Or why? I don't know. You're not gonna. But anyway, we got it, and it sat down here in the barn for probably a week or so, and just out of curiosity, I wanted to see if I can get it to run because it turned over by hand. So I pulled it up in the shop, pulled the fuel tank off, add some crap in it. I sloshed some fuel around in there and dumped it out. And other than some floaties, the tank was spotless inside. It was shiny. I think I filed the points. I don't even know if I pulled the carburetor off of it. But threw a battery in it, and like 45 minutes of dinking around later, it fired right up and ran. Had to drain the fluid out of the rear end and change it because it was full of water. But other than that, and we had a set of factory rear tires on rims. Those are off of a later tractor. If you can see, the white has more of a yellow tint to it. It's kind of darker as opposed to this. Those are off of like a SS16, which went to that ugly ass yellow brown color they had. But put tires on it, and Dad actually mowed with this thing for a year or so, and he was out mowing one day with it, and the engine was always kind of tired. It used a little bit of oil. I mean, it ran okay. It was just, you can tell it wasn't all there. And we think it finally burned a valve because it all of a sudden just up and quit, and it didn't, kind of lost compression. So either the rings are shot, which is a very good possibility because it was burning oil, or like I say, it probably burned a valve. So overall, one of these motors is kind of actually salty. I think Dad was pricing out parts and get everything, and to do it right is like $700. But it's on the list. We need to get it done one of these days. This one actually took a hit. It was sitting back there, and I had the chopper for the 7300 sitting up there, and I crawled up there one day to figure out what I needed for parts. And the steering motor for the old steering motor off of the 1600, that guy right there was sitting up there on top of it, and I don't even know what I touched. I barely moved anything, and that steering motor went over the edge of the shelf and smacked this thing right in the hood. And I mean, I couldn't even recognize it. It pushed the hood in probably that far. Oh well, as far down as it could go to the motor. And I probably sat up there looking over the edge of the shelf for probably 5 minutes, dry heaving. That made me so sick I just about threw up. I was thankful that it wasn't this one sitting there, because if it was this one sitting there, I probably just would have jumped off the shelf and ended it all. So I mean, it sucks that it happened, but I'm glad it happened to this one rather than this one. But I was able to get most of it pushed out, and the rest of it, I need to make a tool, because they're supposed to be right here. There's supposed to be a crease in the hood, and I need to kind of put that back in it. But other than that, it came back out all right, and there's one dent here. But a little bit of body work will get it back into shape. It actually came back fairly easy. But this one, that front tire is original. I had to change that one because it went flat. This one's even, I forgot this one's got the hubcaps on it too. This one had the fronts, it did not have the rears. But we've got a full set. I think we've got hubcaps for all three of them now, actually. And this is the factory seat. This is it's supposed to be a white low back like this. This is off of a newer, it's a Sears seat, but it's off of a newer tractor. And yeah, that one was a bareback. We put the 3-point on it. But they're all three 1971s. If I remember, I should have looked at the serial number on the other one. I want to say this one's actually the newest. Our original one is in the middle, and that one's the oldest, I think. But they were all within, I think they were all within like 300 serial numbers of each other, because they actually didn't build that many of them in all reality. But there's another set of wheel weights there. There's a set of front tires. I think there's a set of rear tires there. That's a 3-point Sears rototiller for them. I think that's all the Sears stuff back there. And then over here, if I can get to it, yeah, we got so much Sears crap, it's not even funny. Yeah. Yeah. Bear with me. Yeah, shit, I don't think I should have went the other way. I should have went the other way. Anybody else have this problem, or is it just me? Okay, this is the destination. So there's another drag. This one's newer because the original one has actual, like, regular, what you'd expect on a farm, like forged steel drag teeth. And these ones are just these stamped steel folded cheapo ones. This one is actually be painted black. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 moldboard plows. I think we've got, they made a 6-inch, an 8-inch, and a 10-inch, and I think we've got at least one of all of them. There's a whole pile of mower decks. Ooh, this guy. Let me get, the lighting's probably gonna get shitty. I'm sorry. This guy here is what, can you see? You can kind of see. This is a fully mounted lawn sweeper. Sears called it a litter whisk. It goes on the drawbar, it's got a bell crank, and when you pick it up, it just hangs on the tractor, but when you set it down, these cog wheels butt up against the rear tires, and they drive off the rear tires, and that's what drives the brush. I've actually used it once, just for shits and giggles. We hung it on a tractor, and I used it. It's kind of neat, but that's the sweeper head, and that's the collection basket for it. I think Dad found that. Oh, there's a really good website for these things. I think it's called Vintage Sears Collector. I think it's still up. Oh, there's another 3-point with an old style top link. Anyway, there's a website called Vintage, if I remember right, it's called Vintage Sears Collector, and I think it's still up. I haven't been on it in a while, but that's where Dad found that, was in the classified section on that website. And then that is a belly-mounted sickle mower that Granddad bought with our original Sears that's over at my house. And the whole reason he got that was because all the pine trees that are back at Grandma and Grandpa's were all like 4 or 5 feet tall. And actually, they weren't even that tall because I had to flag them, but they were, because all those trees were planted. And the ones in the back were planted as a Boy Scout project, and the ones up front, Grandma and Grandpa planted. But they were short enough that they had to keep the grass knocked down because the grass kept choking them out. And rather than using a mower deck, they bought that, and Dad would actually walk in front of Granddad with a wooden stick and find the trees and mark them out, and then Granddad would go with the sickle mower and mow all of the grass down around the pine trees until they got tall enough. I want to get that thing going one of these days, but where the holy hell do you find sickle sections and guards for a Sears sickle mower? That sat out in the woods forever back at Grandma and Grandpa's, and I finally got it out and brought it over here. So 1, 2, yeah, there's the 4 plows. Oh, there's the other part of that litter whisk is right there. That's the lift handle, because you screw it down and it bucks up against the tires, and then there's a handle you can pick it up and down and turn it on and off is how it works. Oh, up on the shelf here, like I say, we got Sears shit all over the place. That right there, that skid of stuff, except for the axles, that is a factory front end loader for a Sears. I don't think there's a cultivator. There's a Sears cultivator right there. I don't know if there's any other Sears stuff up there or not. I don't think there is. There's a SS12 back there in the corner that Dad got for parts. We got another SS, there's a Suburban 12. I think we got a Suburban 12 for parts over at the barn where the combines and everything are. And I just remembered there's one more thing I gotta show you, but I gotta walk up to the other barn to show you. And the last thing is in here. I think it's the last thing. There might be more Sears shit up here I forgot about. You never know. We got it all over the place. It's not even funny. I mean, it's kind of funny, but... Damn, I should have brought a flashlight. One on my phone might work. Oh yeah, that'll work. This guy. This is a Super 12. And these had what they call the sunburst grill. They look like that. And obviously this one doesn't have a motor in it. This one's just a frame and a transmission. But what's cool about this is the crawler tracks. I wish I could... There's so much shit in here. Let me see if I can... give me 1 minute. Okay, now you can see a little bit better. This... Dad built these... Dad actually started this project. Trying to get this light where it's a little more convenient. Back when he was in high school in a shop class, and his idea was he was going to make or take one of these, or take this Super 12 and make a crawler out of it. And he got the track frame and everything built, and this was basically as far as it got. But this would be a neat one to get finished up one of these days. But this thing sat back in the woods at Grandma and Grandpa's next to that sycamore for years too, when we finally got it drug out and put up here. This is another one of them things. Fuck, the tracks are froze solid. You'd have to tear them all apart, free them all back up, but it'd be neat. It'd be really neat. But anyway, like I say, everybody always been bugging me about showing them the Sears stuff we got. And it's a rainy, crappy weekend, and there's probably not going to be a whole lot going on, and I needed something for a filler video, so I figured this was a good time to sneak it in. I'm not really a garden tractor guy. They don't really yank my crank, but I do like these old Sears just because it's what I've always been around. It's kind of what I learned to drive on was that one over at my house. There's pictures of me driving it around the yard before the big barn was built. It was just out, the little shed wasn't even built, it was just a concrete slab. I actually remember, I don't know if it was the first time I drove it or not, but Dad turned me loose on it and just driving around in the backyard because it was all open except for that concrete slab where that little shed is. There was no shed there, it was just a slab. And shoot, I was probably only 3 or 4 years old. How I remember this, I don't know. But I was driving and I drove right into the side of that concrete slab, and it was tall enough the front tires couldn't hop up over it. And I remember that Sears, the garden trailer, that 14 butted up against that concrete slab, was sitting there doing this with me in the seat. And Dad was able to come over and he pushed the clutch down with his hand and yanked it out of gear. But somehow, how the hell I remember that, I don't know. But Mom's got pictures of me driving that thing around in the backyard when I was like 3 or 4 years old. But anyway, I guess that is the Sears garden tractors that everybody's always wanted, or that, well, not necessarily everybody, but a bunch of guys have been bugging me about for probably almost since I started the channel. So I guess I'm gonna go in and get this video put together and kind of take it easy the rest of the day, because I worked on my truck all morning trying to get that thing to where I can actually use it. So might do a little update on that, and I want to do an update on the 6.2 at some point, but it's going to depend on that guy leaving tomorrow. So we'll get a truck update put together here hopefully tomorrow. We'll find out. But anyway, that's it for this one. We'll catch y'all on the next one.